everyone. It's very good to see you all.
You do a special voice.
Okay, we're on anyway.
It's the radio voice.
It's my telephone voice. I hope you're all doing well, and that you're looking forward to sitting down and watching another 15, 30 minutes worth of our Coach's Corner again.
It will be.
We again had some really cool questions coming in from you all over the last few days. We hope to shed some insight to our views and our beliefs on the topics which you expressed interest in knowing. We're going to kick things off first of all with our beliefs on meal timing and how important that might be. Nutrition coach Rosie, I believe that would be a great one to lead you in.
Why, thank you, Dan. How important is meal timing? It's a good question. Again, as usual, it depends on who you are. If I was seeing a client who was a physique competitor or interested in bodybuilding or something in that realm, yes, it would be important. It'd definitely be something that we look at. But for the majority of people, I'm actually not the majority, every single person that I coach in terms of nutrition or have ever coached so far has not had to worry about that too much. So yeah, meal timing can have a very, very minute impact. So when everything else is in order, then that is something that you definitely have a look at. Like carbs around workout, having maybe protein and carbs during the workout, things like that would be something to look at, definitely. Meal timing in general for population, it's just got to be something that's suitable for you, rather than it necessarily impacting your body composition. There's other things that you need to worry about more so than meal timing, is my answer to that question, really.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how to say it in a
we were kind of joking around before, but it's sort of the same as like, there's no point worrying about when you eat meals if every meal you eat is a burger. You know, like get the basics done first and then worry about it afterwards.
Yeah, so like in the realms that we're working in and what you're partaking in, if you was like an elite endurance athlete, you know, and you're doing events that might last, 6+ hours, then obviously your meal timing and your in-work nutrition and stuff like that needs to be considered. But for the scope of what we're kind of doing and stuff like that, like just something that's kind of suitable and fits your lifestyle is going to be the best. Yeah. Now, obviously, if you're waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go and have some sandwiches, that's probably not the best. But, in regards to, if you finish work and you're a little bit peckish before you come to the gym, maybe have a banana so you can get a little bit more carbs and stuff like that. But like Walt said, get the basics right first. It's not necessarily about when you're eating, if you're eating the right things.
Finding something that works for you.
I 100% agree, and I agree with everything you said. I think for anyone who has to ask that question, just like we've just answered now, is are you ticking all the boxes off that come above that, in the sense that what's the quality of the food that you're eating? How much food in terms of the quantity of the food that you're eating? Is that all being taken care of before you just worry about when you eat it? Because really, it all gets digested the same, it all gets metabolized the same. It doesn't really matter what time you really put it into your mouth and consume it. It's what's happened overall, that thing. If you're being paid to be a certain way, if you're being paid to eat or perform or to look a certain way, then that's really, really important. But for all of us who are just trying to eat to be a little bit in better shape and to feel a little bit better and to wake up a little bit happier each day, I don't really think the timing of where that matters. There's loads of myths, isn't there, that eating before bed, you're going to put weight. You're going to put weight on. Your body doesn't metabolize it, etc., and things like that. But ultimately, it comes down to what calories you're putting in your body.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I work with people all the time. Like, obviously, if you're having snacks or whatever in the evening and it's leading you to overeat at that specific time, then meal timing is something that we'd look at because of the environment, not necessarily the impact, the effect that food's going to have. So it's looking at it in a different way. One thing that I will note is, just as a general guideline, and this is again something that's different to everyone, but around about 2 hours before training is a good general guideline for people in terms of when to eat around working out. That's something that I get asked quite often. And again, like, I know my dad in particular, he doesn't eat anywhere near when he goes out running or anything like that, because he would see it back over. But for general population, around about 2 hours is...
So would you say like food should be probably consumed, again, I'm saying, should food be consumed, or should you have a meal like every 3 to 5 hours? Is that a general rule of thumb, or would you say, like, I'm not saying there's going to be one better than the other, but like, is there a difference between having a meal 3 to 5 hours, so like a breakfast, lunch, dinner, or having smaller meals throughout the day? Is it individually, or?
So it used to be the way that the like nutrition coaching was seen as, like, you would have a meal regular, like quite often, three hours, you know, like that would probably be your amount. Whereas now it's a bit more broad, because people just do so well off so many different things. People do well off intermittent fasting, where they go a long period of time without eating, and other people do well off having 3 meals per day but spaced out. So
I suppose it comes down to as well what you've had in the previous meal. If you're eating a heavy carb-based meal, you know that you're going to be hungrier much sooner. If you are having something which has got more fat or more protein in, you're going to be, what's the word?
Satiety. You're
Satiated.
Satiated, sorry. And you're going to feel fuller for longer, that you're not going to need that. But like you say, general rule of thumb, I don't think there's anyone really in here that's got their diet so down well to a T that they need to then worry about what time they're consuming their beans on toast and their dairy milk bar. Do you know what I mean? Like,
The alphabet's spaghetti.
yes, there's lots more things that people need to address first before they worry about what time.
True.
I've got 3 minutes before I need my next meal, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Talking of time.
Talking of time, let's move on to
Should I be working out every day in order for me to see progress? I suppose what that person's saying is 3 days a week enough of training? Do they need to be doing something every day?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, because I have seen it myself, actually, and people have been doing really, really well. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a negative thing, but people have been praised a lot for doing like 6 workouts a day, or doing something every single day, and it's a really good thing to keep. 6 a week, sorry. It's a really, really good thing to keep your body moving, of course, but it's the quality of those sessions, and I think that's what we were going to pull on.
Yeah,
really,
I spoke to a lady last night on the phone who's interested in joining us, and she's invested in loads of equipment at home. She's been going to the gym for years. She tells me she does 2 workouts a day. She does an AM cardio session, she does a PM weight session, and yet she's not seeing any progress. So there's no way that she needs to be doing more.
Yeah.
There's a balance to it, and I suppose it comes down to the effect and the quality of the training that you're doing itself, moreover than the amount of training. Like, you can massively overtrain under recover and not see progress. Whereas if you committed all of your eggs and put 100% into the 2, 3 times, 4 times a week that you might be training, that might be far better than the people who come in here 6 days a week, and on a Sunday they do a long run, and on a whatever day they do a session in the morning before coming here. Like, the amount of people when they first start, there's lots of people when they first start have a normal gym membership and then come here 3 times a week, and they supplement this with their normal gym. But we find that training 3, 4, 5, sometimes 5 days a week is the most optimal. Like, we found that over the years.
Yeah, it's funny, because you can think of it a little bit different where people are with obviously lockdown and having more time on their hands, because obviously they've got more time to recover and less stressors. You know, if you're all of a sudden now you've got loads of time on your hands, you're not working, you've not got any of that work stress, you might find that you're able to train a little bit more because you can recover a little bit better. However, you know, if you're thinking that you're going to jump back into 5 days a week work schedule, you know, drive into work, working a hard day, and still be able to train as consistently as you have been in lockdown, then you know you're gonna struggle to find that balance. So it's one of those ones that it's a very situational question, isn't it?
Yeah, and individual as well.
I think it depends on their training age. So how long have they been training? How long have they been training successfully? For example, have they been training for the last 5-10 years, but there's been no real routine or structure to their training? Are they just going to a normal gym and, like you say, spending 10 minutes on each of the cardio machines and then walking around the perimeter of the gym and going through the lat pull down and then the chest press and things like that? Is that really moving them forward in terms of their training? Where do they currently stand? Do they need more aerobic work, which means you can do a little bit more of? Do they need to be doing a weights program? Again, it comes down to the individual, but really it's measuring and plotting progress. If you find that you train 3 times a week and you're seeing great progress, then you start thinking, great, I'm going to train more often in order to see faster progress, better progress, and I start doing 5 or 6 days a week, and then that starts to tail off.
Yeah.
Where do you go then? You don't go to
you
9 times a week, 12 times a week. It's not about doing more, it's about doing better.
You have to readdress it. So I think first and foremost is, like you say, is measuring progress, looking at using sugar wood like we use, jumping on the scales, which we now have in order to be able to show people's body composition, looking at those health metrics, how they work, and going, is all of those numbers moving in the right way? Like that sickness, wellness, fitness continuum.
Yeah.
Can we plot all of those things and go, are those things all actually getting better? And I think that all comes down to
It's
individual.
important to keep reevaluating that. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you're doing amazing because you're doing more, but actually you're not actually getting better from it, that's when you need to obviously
Reassess, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know there's definitely a minimum that you should maybe be being active, and I think we should be active every day. But I think training, like you say, 3 to 5 times a week, I think is normally
Yeah.
the most part
Yeah.
for most people.
Yeah.
Normally the most part for most people.
And that's the key thing again is the 3 to 5 quality sessions.
Yeah.
I think.
And you think professional athletes have at least 1 or 2 days off a week where they're not doing anything. They might be recovering, but they're not doing any trauma training.
No.
Like they need to recover, and recovery is just as much a big of an important topic in the training as the training itself. So yeah, that was a deep one. Should I be counting my calories in order to change my body composition?
Good question. It's very nutrition orientated today, everyone.
Walt, what do you reckon? Do you count calories?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually do.
You look on the back of
Yeah,
your
you do.
Haribo packet and
Oh,
limit yourself
yeah,
to
exactly.
3 fried eggs.
No, yeah, like I got MyFitnessPal and I log all our meals on there. And I definitely think it helps. Partly just me and you actually had this conversation, just so that you're just aware.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't go on like a diet or whatever, but you just start to log exactly what you have, you kind of realize like, whoa, there's loads more in that than
Yeah.
I expected, or
Whoops.
something like that. So yeah, a lot of whoops happened in the first sort of 2 weeks.
I think, yeah.
So I definitely think, just like I said, to keep you aware of things and just exactly what you are putting into your body, I would always say it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think I think counting your calories or using like MyFitnessPal, like I've used it before, it helps you make informed decisions. Now, for another case is obviously if you've got like a short-term goal and it's not, you can afford to count calories. That's going to help fast track you towards that goal. Now, but that goal that's body compositional. It's not about having the most healthy lifestyle, most sustainable lifestyle. I don't expect anybody to count calories for 60 years. You know, you're going to fall off. You know, it's not the best way to build those healthy habits. However, if you do have a summer holiday coming up and you want to lose a little bit of weight, having more informed decision can help you structure some of those things. It's not necessarily the best way to have a sustainable, healthy lifestyle, but it's definitely going to help provide you with information about what you're putting in your body. Because if you're not counting it, I promise you're going to be shocked if you do start counting it. Because we've all been the same. And if you do that, I'd tell you to just eat normally for 2 weeks. Don't change anything. Just track it, and you'll be shocked.
Yeah, I think, like you say, just being aware of what actually you put in your mouth is a big thing. So, writing down a food journal and being aware of those things at the beginning, like you say, you want to be doing something. We posted it on Facebook earlier this week. We posted a quote saying the decent method is better than the perfect one that you quit, and how it's doing something that you can do for long enough and consistent enough that leads to changes. Moreover, logging and tracking your calories over 4 days and then realizing you don't have the time and the energy, and it just adds more stress to the situation. So it's finding an achievable approach. In terms of, like you say, actually physically counting them, every day is going to be something slightly different. And if there's always we've posted this on a blog post a couple of weeks ago when you'd have seen this video, in the sense that like there's always a reason as to how it's harder. So there might be a birthday coming up this week, or this Friday you're going out for drinks with your friends. How do you log all that stuff? That doesn't mean when you can't do those things, you just fall off completely. So if you're being aware of it, great. Like you say, it educates you on really what you are putting in your body, because I think it'll be a surprise for a lot of people actually what it is when it's down on paper and it's on a sheet. But I don't think it's the be all and end all. If your long-term goal is that you want to be happier, because I don't think necessarily it makes you happy being constrained or being restricted to this number that you have to achieve every day or whatever. It definitely helps, and ultimately each diet, which is what we're not big on, if that makes sense, leads you to leads you to a calorie restriction, whether you're on the Atkins diet, whether you're on intermittent fasting, whether you're doing zone, whatever.
Yeah.
The reason why they're successful is because they are limiting the food options that you're having. But
yeah, I mean, I just to weigh in my kind of view on this, and there is definitely a place for counting calories, for sure. Like, if it works for some people, that's fantastic. In my approach with most of my clients, obviously we start the whole process in my coaching journey with people, no matter who you are really, no matter whether you're like a top athlete or whatever, by trying to first of all kind of establish that the knowledge and like your physical sensations, so your fullness cues, your hunger cues, just getting a bit more in touch with that. And as a result, that's obviously a more sustainable approach. But saying that, once we've looked at those things, that those things are constantly stuff that you need to reevaluate. And ultimately, by this person asking this question, I presume they're kind of saying, like, how do I know my amounts? And the way in my coaching process anyway is we just try and do it the simplest way possible. So rather than worrying about numbers, which for some people might work really well, for most of us, I know, me included, I would not want to be calorie counting all my foods, worrying about what I was having, trying to look up stuff on my fitness plan. That wouldn't work for me, and I know that it's not necessarily the way that everybody wants to live their lives, probably not long term. I use a hand portion guide. So when I look at, so we go through a couple of weeks at looking at different macronutrients. So if we're looking at protein, for example, we look at like a palm-sized protein. We look at a thumb
Hang on a
size
minute.
of fat.
you always have the same size steak as me, and my hands are definitely bigger than yours.
I need more protein. A thumb size of fat, we look at cupped handfuls of carbs, and a fistful of veg, and they're kind of our ways in which we measure. And although calorie counting seems like it would be a really accurate and really scientific way of doing things, it can be up to 25% wrong, and that is a big number over a large amount of time. So even though this isn't necessarily as accurate, it's probably not that far off. So I just like to make things simple, and I think if you've got a good grasp of that, and I know the people that I work with, once they've grasped that, they know what their plate looks like, there isn't a need necessarily to look at calories and counting things like that. So yeah,
Like you say, coming back to doing whatever the method that you can do for the longest and the most consistent is going to be the best way. And most people aren't yet in a position to be able to start worrying about the finest details, which had the least amount of change.
well, no, I kind of disagree, because I think the amount
Cut
of
this.
food,
Gotta cut this out.
the amount of food that you are consuming is a massive, massive part in your success. So yeah, I mean, by asking that question, counting calories, is it important, or like changes in my body composition? Yes, like that's one of the fundamental things that we look at is looking at those amounts. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be calories. It doesn't need to be numbers and confusion and things like that.
They both create the same end result. It's just
Yes.
different roads lead to Rome.
Different roads lead to, yeah, and that's what I just wanted to point out, is that counting calories and Weight Watchers and things like that isn't necessarily the way to go. I think you need to have a relationship with food. You need to enjoy food, and it shouldn't be something that you're like, oh, I'm not going to eat that because, you know.
Definitely have that.
Enjoy food.
I love it.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Lovely.
Cool. I hope that shed some insight into some interesting topics.
Damn, we've gone over again.
Put my telephone voice on again.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.